My ask for you tonight is simple. If you're taking fraud seriously, take your responsibility seriously and pass legislation to stop it. If you talk about oversight, vote for that oversight in the bills that are working their way through the chamber.
Walz also trying to take credit for the DOJ's federal raids targeting daycares and suspected fraud, writing, quote, "If you commit fraud in Minnesota, you're going to get caught." And that's exactly what we saw today. We catch criminals when state and federal agencies share information. Joint investigative work and securing justice depends on it. Founding partner of South and Hill Strategies, Colin Reed, joins me now. Colin, good morning to you. So for those who weren't following the ins and outs of the story yesterday, the FBI raided 20 mostly linked Somali-linked businesses in their ongoing fraud investigation. And as this news broke, Tim Walz goes on X and says, if you commit fraud in Minnesota, you're going to get caught. Is that him taking a victory lap over these raids when fraud went unchecked in his state for years?
Well, Carly, if there's a politician in America with less credibility than Tim Walz, I don't know where you find them, because this is someone who a few months ago was telling us there was nothing to see here, there was nothing going on, and then after he's been run out of office, after his re-election dreams are out the window, he's now trying to take credit for cracking down on the fraud that a couple months ago didn't exist. It doesn't pass the smell test. Voters don't buy it.
Yeah, and FBI Director Kash Patel posted on X. Come again? This FBI and DOJ with our DHS partners drafted and executed every search today. We go ahead and take credit for our work while we smoke out the fraud plaguing Minnesota under your governorship. So just wanted to read that to put a bow on that. But something else that I was thinking about, Colin, is that we're about 6 months until the midterm elections. So that means that there's going to be about 1,000 news cycles between then and now. Does this fraud that we're talking about right now factor into the midterms in November?
What's especially galling, Carly, is we're still in April. Forget about November. We're still in April. Most of us, all of us, hopefully, just paid our taxes, and we saw how much money we handed over to the government. We worked really hard for that money, and when it's just being thrown away, when it's just being misappropriated by politicians with no accountability, that's really irritating, and that's the thing that motivates people to get off their butts and get out and vote.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of the midterm election, something else I wanted to ask you about took place in Virginia yesterday. There were oral arguments in front of the Virginia Supreme Court over redistricting, and a lot of the questions the judges asked seem to cut in favor of Republicans who say that this question should have never been on the ballot to begin with. So could the Virginia redistricting actually wind up not taking place in the state of Virginia?
I was talking to folks in Virginia last night who were in the know, and the TLDR is this. It was an encouraging early sign. There's still a long way to go, but what is clear is this unconstitutional power grab is not yet settled. And what I think is really important, Carly, is the same judge who hit the brake, or the same judicial court who hit the brakes on this idea to move forward with it, is the same one who allowed it to go on the ballot in the first place. So
Representative Moulton repeatedly tries to lock Pete Hegseth into simple, factual answers about cost, results, and outcomes of the Houthi operation. But instead of direct responses, Hegseth shifts, deflects, and reframes every question into vague justifications and comparisons. The moment becomes tense because the core issue is not just disagreement, it's the refusal to clearly confirm basic numbers, like spending and shipping outcomes. When pressed on how much the operation cost and what it actually achieved, the answer being 0 commercial ships cuts straight into the narrative of success being claimed. That contrast creates the central conflict of the entire exchange. Billions potentially spent, yet no visible commercial transit improvement. As the questioning continues, the pressure increases because Moulton keeps returning to one thing: results versus claims. Instead of addressing that directly, Hegseth leans on broader statements about military actions and responsibility, which only escalates the perception that the core questions are being avoided. This is where the narrative shifts from policy discussion to credibility battle. The commentary layered into the script intensifies that perception by framing the situation as a larger failure, bringing in claims about troop conditions, leadership decisions, and internal dysfunction, whether every claim is verified or not. The effect is clear. It builds an image of a system under strain, where leadership is being questioned not just on decisions, but on honesty and accountability itself. By the end, the exchange is no longer about the Houthi operation alone. It becomes a broader indictment of leadership style, decision-making, and transparency. Moulton's repeated focus on measurable outcomes clashes with Hegseth's broader framing of success, and that gap is what drives the entire tension of the moment.